What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 332 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. This is the Hot Tags edition of the week, where we're going to be breaking down some of the current events, rumors, news, gossip, and everything else that went down in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment over the past couple of days. A little bit later than we normally do, because, god damn it, we needed a break. But that just means we have a little bit more stuff to talk about, instead of just saying, hey, WrestleMania happened, lots of stuff happened, and go check it out on the WrestleMania thing. But if you haven't gone ahead and checked out the WrestleMania podcast, go back and look at that stuff. Today we're going to talk about everything that happened after the fact. And actually one story that happened a little bit beforehand, so it's a little bit crazy. But the people that are going to be talking for this edition are, well, you know me. I'm Tony Mango, your host, and joining me on the panel we've got Callum Wiggins.
What's up, everyone?
And Robert DeFelice.
What's up, what's up?
What's up, what's up, what's up?
People over there, that's what's up.
People over there, what's up? I still love that fucking joke. Just people over there, what's up? People over there, what's up? People over here, what's up?
You in the bag, what's up?
Guy over there, what's up? Anyway, my brain is fried. We have had a long 4-week-long week. And it just doesn't end. Today we got NXT tapings happening. NXT's happening tonight. And there a whole bunch of things can happen with that. And we're not factoring that into the hot tags yet. Today what we're going to be doing is actually a double edition. We're going to record two things right in a row. And I'm not even going to bother trying to not post them one after the other, because screw it. We're going to be doing our hot tags, and then we're going to be doing Takeover. Really? So I'm just calling it Takeover. The Takeover tournament. We did a whole tournament based off of Takeover. Now, the Smark Madness tournament, that's stuff that you got to look forward to. So if you're listening to just the hot tags, then right afterwards going to be another thing. Anyway, hot tag-wise, though, let's talk about what's happening as far as 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. One thing to go back in time a little bit from is Impact had not only a little shot on Monday Night Raw where Kurt Angle was saying TNA's hiring. I thought that was fucking great. They're also firing. They fired Alberto Del Rio. He no-showed an event, and they figured, fuck it, you're gone. So this is the same company that we have been talking about for years, where every single thing that they do is, well, this is the thing that's going to work. And then it isn't. And they hitched their wagon to Alberto Del Rio and made him their top guy. He's going to be the one that saves the company and all this other kind of stuff. And then he got that whole situation with Paige, and they took the title away from him and said, we're going to stand by him afterward because, hey, we still have him under some kind of a contract and stuff. He comes back and no shows, and they just let him go. Proof positive that Del Rio is living up to Del Rio, you know, and proof positive that Impact is living up to Impact, because they bring these people on board and then it's like, we're going to, you know, really push this Sami Callihan dude. He just hit somebody in the head with a baseball bat. All right, let's try to figure out what's going on. We're going to really push this Del Rio guy. We're going to really push. Like, what is going on with this shit? Can we get to the point now where we just agree that Del Rio has his best interests account for only himself and nobody else at all times, and that Impact doesn't know what they're doing?
Well, as far as the latter, I think Impact hasn't known what they're doing for almost a decade. With Del Rio, it's really sad, but yeah, he just seems like a bigger piece of shit every time a piece of news comes out about him.
He really does, because I don't remember the last time that a news story came out that didn't make me go, oh my god, all right, here goes Del Rio being an asshole. There's never like, Alberto Del Rio saves a kitten from drowning and donates money to charity or something like that. It's always just like, Del Rio punches some dude in a bar. Del Rio no-shows event and then talks about how he deserves more money. Del Rio potentially coming back to WWE, which is like, that's the worst story out of all.
So did you start out as a fan of Alberto Del Rio?
Yeah, actually, when he first came in to WWE and he had that whole, like, the vignettes of him in the mansion and stuff, I was just kind of like, all right, this guy seems kind of cool. He's like a new Ted DiBiase JBL type.
Right.
And they started pushing him a little bit too much, a little bit too fast, and I was like, all right, slow down this push a little bit. He should win a mid-card title in a couple of months, but not a world title. And then it became like, wow, they really, really value this guy, but I don't see it. And Del Rio has been a guy that I can see some value behind. Like, unquestionably, he has some character and he has some in-ring skills, but his attitude is just horrendous. Backstage, you know, in the ring, everything is just kind of like, you're not helping it, you know?
I just really don't see his appeal anymore, at least at this point in his career. He's pushing on 40. He puts on okay matches, but when was the last time anyone said, oh, you have to check out this Alberto Del Rio match? I can't ever recall ever saying anything along those lines. He's okay on the mic, but like the main thing that has always attracted WWE and Impact Wrestling and other companies to him is his like huge connection with the Mexican market or Latin America. But it's like, well, he might be famous in Mexico, but it's not like many organizations in Mexico are booking him at the moment after all of this stuff that's been going on. But there are lots of other people you could start pushing as your next big Latin American star. In WWE's case, you've got Andrade Almas sitting in NXT still, and he could easily fill that void. And for Impact Wrestling, I'm sure there are a few other people that within their ranks, like they've got an LAX, they've got a whole faction of like Mexican American wrestlers. So push them and get rid of Alberto because, like you say, he's just bad news. He only has his own interests at heart, and he seems to be like flagrantly trying to abuse his own position in order to just do whatever he feels is best for him. And in this case, it's actually cost him. And I think this is really one of the first times it's actually really cost him his job.
Well, the thing with Del Rio that really bugs me is like a little bit kind of like what you were saying, where at this point, what's his appeal? Where if you bring him into a company and you could get him cheap, sure. But he requests tons of money. I'm sure that has to be like well beyond what his going value would be. And does he really draw for what like somebody like an Impact would need? They need people to pay attention to their product. They don't need to sell out little house shows. They need like a TV deal and stuff. And also, is there really all that like buzz around Del Rio that would get that kind of thing? I don't think so. So you're wasting your money on a guy that's not really going to help you. It's kind of like spending, I don't know, $50 for a plain white t-shirt when you could go to Walmart and get one for $8. And it's like, you need another guy at the top? Well, you got this like Eli Drake dude. He seems fine. And with Brian Cage, that guy's name, like he seems big and whatever. And they're about on the same kind of range as like people would pay attention to them as Del Rio. Like I don't remember anybody ever saying to me like, I gotta watch Impact now that Del Rio is on there. You know?
Well, is there anything that would draw either one of you to Impact Wrestling at this point?
I'd still watch on occasion. It's a lot better than it used to be, and there are some like strong wrestlers on there. It's just it's hard to get invested in the stories almost because it's gone to the point where, I mean, this is just me personally talking, but it's been so tainted by its own previous incarnations that even if it was to get, even unless it got really good, like so good that you just couldn't miss it, I'm actively going to avoid it or just forget that it's on every now and again.
There's only two things that would make me watch. Number one, actually, no, I'll say three things because one of them's kind of not dependent on the other. One thing would be like half the WWE roster leaves and goes there, which would be impossible because there's no way they would ever have the money for it. Number two would be if there's a conglomerate of Impact, New Japan, Ring of Honor, and like a bunch of other like indie kind of feds and stuff, you know, like anything from OTW to Game Changer Wrestling and Shimmer and like like whatever like that. Like if there's just kind of like everybody unites and says, look, WWE is number 1. If we all combine, we can be number 2, or maybe fight for number 1 or number 3. WWE buys them. Those would be the only 3 things that I could see watching Impact for. Even if you took somebody like a John Cena or, even like The Miz, who I'm a big, big fan of. If he goes to Impact, I'd be like, that sucks. I'm not going to watch The Miz anymore. Like, 1 person, 3 people, they're not going to make a big deal. Especially not Del Rio. And the fact that Del Rio has left Impact just makes me nervous because I don't want him back in WWE.
I don't think he'll go back to WWE. I think they have better sense than to hire him back.
Well, supposedly he and Triple H don't get along. And if that's the case, and Triple H has been getting more and more leverage in the company, maybe that's a good way to be like, all right, no.
But it's well known that he does get on really well with Vince McMahon.
Right.
So
Vince has ultimate shot.
Yeah, while he's still in charge, he could bring him in. And if he was to bring him in, then like I was saying earlier, like someone like an Andrade Almas just goes from being like a potential upper mid card guy to just the bottom of the barrel, like an afterthought.
He would just be his tag team partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, either that or, yeah.
Those 2 are buddies. They've got similar enough characters. It would end up being like Del Rio and Almas and Zelina Vega are all a stable, unless they would drop Zelina Vega because they could potentially make a mistake like that.
Well, they'd make the bigger mistake probably making them as a tag team, and then Alberto turns on Almas and takes Zelina Vega with him.
Yeah, then Almas tries to be a babyface and it doesn't work, and then
we're back to square one with Almas.
Yeah, then you try to give the title to Del Rio, and then
and then Del Rio slaps a social media manager backstage, and then it's all goes.
And then fights Sheamus 6 times. So I don't know what this whole thing with Del Rio's future is, but it's good to see a little bit of a comeuppance, although it doesn't seem like it's all that much. It seems like it's a slap on the wrist. Like, he clearly knew that he could potentially get fired and doesn't care, so it's like giving detention to a kid who's acting out because he wants attention. Kinda. Attention, detention, suspension.
Good on Impact. I mean, they did the right thing. They took a stand, and it hurt them greatly because they're finally doing a pay-per-view outside of the 1 or 2 that they've done, and he was going to be the main event, so they've had to switch that.
Wasn't the name of that Redemption?
Yeah, and you know who won't be getting his redemption? Alberto Del Rio.
So we got detention, attention, redemption. Certainly not redemption for Impact if you build this whole fucking thing around, and then it's like, I guess we gotta fire the guy that we were building this around. Austin Aries is the only guy that's like sticking around and trying to do something, I guess. Well, it's the only reason that they're keeping him around is because they're giving him every goddamn title. It's a mess. Anyway, another story about another company outside of WWE is Ohio Valley Wrestling, which Al Snow now purchased. Which is, I don't know, kind of fitting, I guess.
That's a really good deal. I like it.
Makes sense.
He was the head trainer and the head writer for a while.
Yeah, you got to assume that he's got like a lot of sentimental reasons for buying OVW, and I forget who the former owner was. It's just escaping me because my brain is so fried. But
Danny Davis, did he buy it from Danny Davis, or will he be working with?
I think he bought it from him. I think he's retiring. I think that's what it was. So Al Snow, he has his wrestling academy and working with OVW and the clothing line too. It makes sense to me. And hey, you know what? If OVW wants to stick around and you got a guy like an Al Snow, sure.
I like it a lot.
He has a lot of experience, both like obviously as a wrestler, he's performed at near the highest level. Obviously not in the highest position on the card, but still at the highest level. And he has a lot of experience behind the scenes as like a trainer for WWE when they were doing Tough Enough, and also like as a production manager in TNA. So he should hopefully. I mean, it can't be too bad. I mean, it's not like many people talk about OVW nowadays. So if him being around gives them a little bit more of an emphasis, then it can only be a good thing.
He's ripped, by the way. Have you? Al Snow, in his older age, he looks about as jacked as Brian Cage in some of these pictures that I see of him.
I guess the little bit of the extra downtime, not having to be in the ring as much and stuff.
So how many OVW World titles do you think he's going to win?
0. I think he's smart enough. I think he's smart enough to keep himself off of TV.
I don't know. It depends.
I think if he was smart, he'd put himself on TV at least.
Yeah, like a general manager type role.
Maybe in a commissioner role, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
he should.
He's still Al Snow. Yeah. It's not like he's not The Rock or anything, but he's still a well-known name for like smart wrestling fans.
So, who do you guys think will be the head trainer?
Mick Foley. Let's see what we have here. Let's jump to this story, just because, what the hell, why not? Apparently, Jerry the King Lawler suffered a stroke 2 weeks before WrestleMania. Which is just like, he said, I didn't listen to the podcast, I just read the news story, but he said in his Dinner with the King podcast, 2 weeks before Mania on March 21st, he was unable to speak for almost 3 days. His face was sagging on one side, and then he woke up on Saturday morning, felt totally better, and decided to wrestle and do WrestleMania appearances and stuff.
What the fuck?
Which is like,
wow.
King, stop wrestling, dude. Come on, man. You fucking had a second stroke, and you couldn't talk for 3 days, and your face was sagging. Don't get in the ring anymore, man. Like,
You know what, though? Really, it speaks to the simplicity and the benefit of that style that he worked and that a Ric Flair, a Hulk Hogan worked, because they can wrestle until they're literally dust. I believe Dory Funk Jr. is still wrestling, so as cool as flips and high spots are, the Young Bucks won't be wrestling when they're Jerry Lawler's age.
Yeah, that's true. But it's still, like, concerning to me that he would still want to step into the ring. I would think at that point it would just be like, all right, can I please just hang it up? I mean, the heart attack alone, I would have thought, no more wrestling. And then you do a stroke on top of that. He's going to die in the ring if he keeps doing this stuff. We're just going to get a random a random story one day where it's just going to be like Jerry Lawler suffers another stroke or heart attack in the ring and he's not doing too well. And then an hour later, it's going to be like Jerry Lawler has passed away. It's just going to happen.
It does make you kind of question the fact that they wouldn't let Daniel Bryan in the ring for 2 years because he had a bit of a head injury. And yet, their other companies are allowing Jerry the King Lawler, who's suffered heart attacks and strokes and what have you, and has a really terrible diet and drinks far too much soda and stuff like that, to wrestle constantly. Well, I resent the soda. So, but no, it's just like there's so many different perspectives to this. I also want to. I don't want to claim that he's lying outright, but we really only have his word about it that he suffered a stroke.
I don't know if he would lie about, hey, my face
but he might.
sagging.
He might exaggerate. He might be exaggerating. Like he might be going along the lines like, "Oh, I suffered a stroke." It could be that I don't know how like the gradients of it. Like it could have been just like, I'm not saying like even a minor stroke is a good thing, but it might not be something that can permanently damage or hurt you.
I will say that's why WWE decided to clear Bryan, because Triple H had said he was getting worried that Bryan would get so desperate that he would just work any company and then he would get seriously injured and there wouldn't be the medical team there to help him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's Triple H talking like his WWE speak, which is every other company doesn't do as well as what WWE does, which is bullshit, but it's what he'll say anyway.
Still, it does make sense, because this isn't going to create a spot for Lawler to start wrestling again, but...
Oh, no, definitely not.
At least as far as, like, their resources, there's no other company that has the same as they do, so if you're going to have somebody like a Daniel Bryan wrestle, then you test them after every match and stuff, then you get a little bit of a better indicator of what's going on. And Lawler, it's just like you wrestle for some random indie show, and if he has a stroke in the middle of the ring or something like that, they're going to be like, I don't know, call 911. Like, it's not going to be good.
I'm pretty sure WWE would do that as well.
Oh, they got at least a staff, an indie show, like, they're not going to have, paramedics ringside that know exactly what to do in that kind of situation and stuff,
No. Well, it's like you say, he shouldn't be wrestling at his age anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the number of illnesses and, like, serious traumas he's suffered throughout his career. I mean, it's not like Jerry Lawler ever wrestled the most intensive style, like Robert was saying, but still, like, eventually your body does break down no matter how much physical activity you've been doing. And at his age, like 68 now, you're going to be suffering these sort of things, whether you've had a career in the ring or not.
Right. There's people that have a stroke at their, I don't know, like, they could be like 26 and die or something, People could have a heart attack at 40, and, of course you have to weigh the idea of like, well, you never really know. You could slip in a bar of soap when you're 15 and crack your head open and die, but like, it's still just kind of like, well, you don't test things, You don't do a physically intensive thing 2 weeks after you've had a stroke, after you've already had a heart attack and you're 70. Like, you just realistically don't do it. I mean, credit to the King. If he was able to do that kind of stuff and seemed like everything was perfectly fine, then he must have one hell of a good set of genes on him. But man, that's scary.
Yeah, and he was on commentary. I didn't even know anything was wrong. I didn't see anything wrong in his face. I didn't hear anything in his voice. Didn't
sound like he was off. Nothing. So that's good, but stop. I don't want to have to report that you're dead. Knock it off.
Especially that you died in the ring, please.
Right, like, and God, that's traumatizing to anybody that would be around that area at the time, like, especially the person he would be fighting against, because then the person would be like, did I do something, like, that's just, makes me nervous. Let's just go to, let's combine these two together, yeah. Before we talk about the main event thing that we're talking about is Superstar Shakeup, obviously, if you've checked the thumbnail and stuff. We're going to save that for last, but let's go to the two different little documentary type things that we've got going on. One of them was WWE based. It was WWE 24, Raw 25. I'm assuming that another subtitle for that has something to do with 26. And then there's the HBO Andre the Giant documentary. So before we talk about this, let me just ask, who watched what?
I watched Andre the Giant. I have not watched WWE 24.
I've seen and heard a few little bits and pieces about the Andre documentary, but I haven't watched either of them, unfortunately.
All right, so real quick, the WWE 24, Raw 25, that was something that I think that most people should skip. It was really all not that much informative, and it was, like, there were some good spots to it where it was interesting to see, like, The Miz, for instance, was the best part. They showed that when he went from the one arena to the other one, that they hadn't told him ahead of time what he was going to do and stuff. They were like, you got to go to the other arena. And he was like, what am I doing? And they were like, just, you got to go. Like, you got to go. You figure it out on the way and stuff. And then before he went out, they said, just have fun. And he was like, okay. I think before he leaves the curtain, he just goes, what is my job? Just kind of like, what am I doing? But it was interesting to see that. It was interesting to just see the way that, like, anytime they show Undertaker just being Mark, it's a little bit strange. And he's just kind of hanging out backstage going like, oh, hey, look at that. There's that sign. It reminds me of the Ico Pro thing. That's kind of cool. What's up, Sean? To, like, Waltman and stuff. And Sean Waltman's walking around with his dog on his chest, like a baby carrier kind of thing. And, like, there's some interesting parts like that. But for the most part, it was a weird episode of Raw to begin with. And a lot of people had a lot of, like, things that they hated about it. And they acted like none of that was the case, of course. It was just, what a rousing success. This is so amazing. And then they cut everything to be like, the crowd for every little segment is like, whoa, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing in the world. Instead of people chanting, like, that they were so pissed at the, oh God, what's the name of the arena?
We want refunds or whatever.
Yeah, the refunds, and, like, how they kept, like, watching almost the entirety of Raw in the dark on the screen. And, like, No mentioning of that, of course, because they're not going to talk about the failures of it. But
or mention anything about like the superstars, like some of the like, especially the women superstars that came out in that, like
the little like,
where that,
remember these?
Just like all saying, "This is what I came for" and stuff like that. Because I heard like a lot of people after that were basically saying, "Oh, so this is what I got paid to do." Doesn't really seem like it was worth it at the end of this.
No, none of the mentions of that. Everybody was just sort of like, isn't this great that Raw's been around for 25 years? And that's essentially it. So if you haven't seen it, don't waste your time. If you want to put it on in the background, then go ahead and do that. But if you want to skip it, skip it. You're not going to really be missing like some awesome documentary talking about a bunch of stuff that's like, wow, that was super interesting. It really wasn't.
That's such a Vince-ism, by the way, that, oh, just have fun, pal. You know, like...
Mm-hmm. And then if he would have done something that would have been bothersome, it would have been like, I can't believe you did that. What the hell are you thinking? You didn't tell me what to do. You should know what I want you to do. The Andre documentary, though, I went through 3 different phases for this. I started it off going, wait a minute, what? This is going to suck. And then it became, this is actually pretty good. And then it became, wait a minute, is this a Hogan documentary? Because about 40 minutes through, it just stops talking about Andre the Giant. And it just becomes about like 20 solid minutes or so of Hulk Hogan, which is kind of strange. I mean, I get that they were building up the idea of like Hogan is the one that Andre passes the torch to and stuff, but it was really odd to go like more than 5 minutes straight without any mentioning of Andre. I liked it though. The music choices were a little bit strange. The music I thought was a little bit odd every once in a while. But yeah, it's sad as hell, as expected, because Andre's life was just sad. And, you know, a lot of these shots we've seen over the years, like the picture of him holding the beer, where the beer looks like he's holding like a little kid's thing or something. And some things that I hadn't seen before. Like, I didn't know that Andre hated Randy Savage.
That one really shook me, that Hogan was like, yeah, he hated Randy, and he would just tell Randy to get out and go put baby oil on, and then he would just beat the shit out of Randy in the ring.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That and Iron Sheik and Big John Studd were the 3 that they were saying, like, Andre fucking hated these people, and it was like, huh, I can get Iron Sheik.
And I knew about Big John Studd. That's a whole thing. Andre didn't like anybody doing the whole giant thing. That was his thing, and he wanted
That's like a jealousy type of thing. I can understand that. And Iron Sheik is Iron Sheik, so I can see where he gets under people's skin. But
wow, Randy.
Like... But is that? I mean, again, don't want to call too much out of it, but isn't that another Hogan thing?
It could be.
Hogan is notorious for not exactly recalling things the way they actually were. So
you can't rule that out.
The documentary cut to an image of Andre just sitting on Savage's head in the tag match at SummerSlam.
But did it mention? I mean, obviously, I haven't seen it until way through. Did it mention anything about the Ultimate Warrior?
Nope.
Because that's one person that I've seen in other documentaries that Andre legitimately hated.
Nobody likes Warrior though.
Yeah, I know.
Dana Warrior does.
Yeah, and WWE does. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, this is WWE had quite a big steer on this documentary, so if they did want to mention anything about how much he detested Warrior, they probably wouldn't have allowed it to go in. It's fine to talk about all those guys because Sheik isn't connected to the company and the other 2 are dead, so it doesn't really matter too much.
And he's Sheik.
Like... Yeah, so people would just say, "Oh, Sheik was an arsehole? I wouldn't believe that." That's
right. It's Iron Sheik. You say pretty much any story about him being a jerk, and you're going to be like, "All right, yeah, I can see that happening." Savage though took me by surprise though. Oh, the Vince crying thing was a little bit like, my first reaction was, "Oh, this is doctored," and it was like, "Can you make sure that we get a shot of you crying for this?" That kind of a thing. But it was still kind of odd to see because Vince doesn't cry, you know. That was kind of interesting.
Andre was like a huge component. I mean, I don't want to say it's like family to Vince McMahon, but like Andre was one of the like foundations of the WWF back when like Vince McMahon's father was running the company. Yeah. Andre was someone that they used to. It was also a case of like him just being a star that they had to use. They genuinely like valued everything that he did for them.
He's
So
the first Hall of Famer.
Yeah, so I think there is like a genuine emotion there. I know obviously you're going to want to see people getting emotional about it, so they might be doctored it a little bit, but I think the emotion that Vince McMahon would display in that situation would be genuine.
And they also talked about Andre really growing a disdain for Vince. You know?
Yeah, saying like you used me and getting kind of upset that like his career was ending, but Vince was just going to move on and stuff like that, which makes a lot of sense. And a lot of things in the documentary, like I don't call attention to a lot of things that would have been like, I don't know, that's a little suspect. Like maybe the Hogan stuff would be like, I don't know, but most of it was just sort of like, I mean, White was talking about like how he was just like, I wish I could live like you for one day a week and stuff. And it was like, yeah, I can picture Andre saying that because his life had to suck balls. Like that had to be horrible. And the story about him in the airplane, 14-hour flight where he can't use the bathroom. So they take a curtain and draw it so people can't see him pissing in a bucket that they empty out into the toilet. Like that's horrible, but it's expected based off of the way that he looked. And also weight gain. Like I kept track of that throughout. They said that when he first started, when he was like 19, that he was 306 pounds. And you can see how lean he is. And by the end of it, you're talking about WrestleMania 3, and they're building him at 525. He gained 320 pounds over the course of, his 15-year career or so. But even when it showed that he was still only in his like 20s, he had gone from 306 pounds to 350 or whatever it was, or 370 something or whatever. So he had gained 70 pounds in the course of just like, I guess I'm going to travel on the road. And man, that's got to be brutal for that too. And you get the height and you get the weight combined, and they're talking about like his legs being so shot that they were wondering how he could walk on them, and whatever. It's just sad.
And also modern medicine, because if you look at his life compared to Big Show's, it's
not even comparable. It's just the Big Show is lucky as hell that he came around at a time where they could give him the treatment that he needs.
He did that surgery and he was young and he was able to really live a healthy, somewhat normal life.
Yeah, Big Show has gone past the age of what they said that they thought Andre would be lucky to live to. I'm not too shocked, based off of the way the Big Show's been moving around and stuff, that if he were to just stick around and live a normal life, for the most part. But then again, Big Show is still smaller than Andre. Like, it's insane to look at like the pictures where they showed people back and forth, and I hadn't seen this segment, or if I did, I haven't seen it in so long that I forgot about it. But me and Gene Okerlund holding up Andre's ring, and he has 3 fingers that he can fit with room in a ring that Andre puts on 1 finger. That's crazy. Which, oh, by the way, that reminded me too. One of my favorite parts of this whole thing, I loved it. The Ric Flair pops up right when they're talking about that he was a ladies' man, which I was like, I didn't expect Andre to be a ladies' man. And it's like the first thing Ric Flair says in the whole damn documentary. He goes, well, he wore a size 24 ring. What else can I tell you?
and the size,
and size 24 boots.
Shoe? He's like, what else do you want to know?
And he laughs like a creepy old pervert. It's like, oh my God, Ric Flair being Ric Flair. Jesus Christ.
Vince seemed to try to say that like women were attracted to the idea of being with this special gift from Mother Nature.
He was beating around the bush.
Like, okay, so Andre had a massive wang, and we're just like, yeah, he's the Giant, all right. Yeah.
I think he said something along the lines of, well, curiosity had to be a factor. Which is just like, of course, Vince. Talking about giant grapefruits and stuff. Like,
yeah.
The sexual French vanilla, Andre the Giant.
Yeah, and I loved the part where they had said that his original name was foray, and that the one promoter was like, I can't call him the Giant Fairy.
I think one of the good things about like a documentary on Andre is the fact that it doesn't have to just be geared towards wrestling fans, because obviously he's a marvel of just human physiology for one, and also he's a pop culture icon as well. Obviously due to the fact that wrestling was so big in the 1980s, and also due to his like appearances in films like The Princess Bride.
Yeah, they touch on that a little bit, and he's one of the few people that could actually have that crossover appeal. Hogan's another one. They have to do some kind of a thing like this for Hogan, and really just kind of dive into, like, number one, out of all the questions I want answered for Hogan, why the hell is there that shot in the background where of the movie where the dude's throwing the dog into the fucking pond or whatever it is? I just want to know that. Just Hogan driving a motorcycle, and it's just kind of like, I just throw my dog into the lake. I want to figure that out.
I don't know if a documentary on Hogan. I think that scene might end up on the cutting room floor. Really,
well, that needs to be on the special feature. Just ask him. Hey Hulk, did you know that there was a dude throwing a dog behind you? Oh, let me tell you, brother. We had this discussions ahead of time. We thought, what would make this scene memorable. But they do talk about like Thunder Lips and stuff in this Andre documentary, and that was kind of strange that it was just sort of pivoted to like, isn't Hogan great and all that.
Well, Hogan's always had the ability to make anything about somebody else about himself instead, so he managed to do it get one over on Andre one last time.
It's interesting too, because I'd never thought about WrestleMania 3 like this, but they painted the picture so perfectly of Hogan had to beat Andre because Andre was the ghost of the territory era. Yeah,
it was a good little, like, passing the torch type of thing in a different context than I didn't even think of either, because it was, hey, he's the old guy, and we're going to put over the new main star, but the whole ghost of the territories thing was really like, you know what? That is true. It's the really end of traveling around and doing things in the Midwest and then the Northeast and then whatever. It's just, no, Hogan is representative of the global market. That is the guy going forward. Weird way to look at it, but I liked it. I thought that was really kind of cool. Overall, the documentary was good. I recommend everybody checking it out when they get a chance. But I didn't tell you everything about it, of course, because that would be like superfluous. And also, I don't remember all of it. As far as Raw 25, skip it. As far as Andre, I say see it. Check it out when you get a chance. And you can find it through like the internet and stuff. You don't have to,
Or if you're subscribed to HBO Go.
Any of that kind of stuff. There's ways around it.
Yeah,
I'll just flat out admit I torrented it. I'm not going to sign up for HBO.
We're not encouraging you to do the same. But we're not going to stop you to do it.
Ahem. I mean, Xfinity, you didn't hear that. Well, yes, the topic for us to talk about here, this is going to go off the rails, I'm assuming, because there's so much that we can talk about, and there's like no way to even like necessarily frame it. But WWE announced that, fuck you, Tony, you're not going to get any sleep, and that they are going to do the Superstar Shakeup next week. The idea going forward was that they could potentially do this at Backlash or the week before Backlash. But then again, we've got the Greatest Royal Rumble, and everything's just kind of up in the air, and they decided, fuck it, let's just do it next week. This is something that they had done before, so it's not the craziest thing in the world to assume that they would do it again just 2 weeks after WrestleMania, but we do know that we're getting it, and we also know that there are people that have like switched over from NXT to the main roster already, and that's something to take into account. We know that there's people that are guaranteed to not be moving based off of the way that like titles have gone and different things like that. It's an interesting situation. So I kind of wanted to make this a little bit free range. Like, let's talk about people that should move. Let's talk about things that have already happened. There's a lot of different options to go around here. But the first thing I want to ask everybody is just as far as people that are safe. I'm assuming the only people that are 100% safe are Ronda Rousey on Monday Night Raw, Nia Jax on Monday Night Raw. She's holding the Raw Women's Championship. You can't have her move with the Raw Women's Championship. Carmella, now that she has won the SmackDown Women's Championship, it used to be, well, Charlotte's safe. Well, she doesn't have the title anymore. And there was the idea that Carmella could have cashed in on Monday Night Raw. Instead, well, she already got that out of the, out of the running, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. The Bludgeon Brothers are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, so they seem pretty safe.
There are no Raw Tag Team Champions.
No Raw Tag Team Champions. The Intercontinental and the United States title can easily swap.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, even the WWE and the Universal could, because there's nothing stopping WWE
Brock isn't
from
going to SmackDown. Stop.
Well, that's something I want to bring up, because you would think the Universal Championship has to stay there because it's a red belt and it's Brock Lesnar. However, they could just commission a blue belt or a black one.
Or they could have Roman Reigns win the title.
Exactly. They could have Roman win the title at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And
That'd
then
be a real kick at WrestleMania, wouldn't it? Like, oh, it's WrestleMania, it's our biggest show of the year, but no, we're at Saudi Arabia now, so this is where Roman wins the title.
I'm thinking it's happening. Like, I'm going under this as like almost a guarantee at this point, kind of. But that, if it does happen, means that he can go over to SmackDown. And if they have him go over to SmackDown, that moves open the idea that AJ Styles could go over to Monday Night Raw. But if AJ Styles goes over to Monday Night Raw, you sort of have to move Shinsuke Nakamura over for this feud to continue, right? But there's Backlash. Who's to say Backlash doesn't just have Raw versus SmackDown people? They did it last year with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. It's a weird situation for that, but I kind of am still working under the assumption AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns and Shinsuke Nakamura stay where they are. Do you guys agree or disagree?
Yeah. All of them I think are safe.
It seems the most logical to just kind of keep them the way that they are and just sort of move on from there, that kind of a thing.
But everyone else outside of the brand specific champions is pretty much fair game at this point.
Well, that's another thing I wanted to kind of bring up to you guys is, do you think that the NXT call-ups, we got the Iconics, they're not the Iconic Duo anymore because Vince McMahon hates things with two names.
They called them the Iconics?
Yep. They're the Iconics now. They are now on SmackDown, and the Authors of Pain and Ember Moon and No Way Jose are on Monday Night Raw.
As well as Bobby Lashley.
Oh, and Bobby Lashley came back, too. That's another one. So I'm assuming it's something that they didn't specify. I'm assuming that those people are safe and that they can't be traded. Because really, if you look at it logically, why would, Kurt Angle, for instance, why would he sign the Authors of Pain and then want to trade them to SmackDown? It doesn't make any sense. And why would you debut them and then go, whoops, they're going to the other brand? They could, but I don't think that they will.
It would be it would be kind of like taking from the world of actual sports where some teams, like in basketball, for instance, they might sign a player as part of a trade in order to try and trade for a bigger player. So you might just say, oh, we'll have the Authors of Pain, now we want you to give us the Usos for them, or something like that. But it's unlikely that I think any of them are going to change hands. I think they've decided which brand they're going to be on.
Mm-hmm. And actually, the Bludgeon Brothers, even though they have the SmackDown tag titles, they could drop them too. But come on, they're the Bludgeon Brothers. The whole point's that they're, kicking ass.
Are these shakeups specifically Monday and Tuesday and that's it? No trades or moves after Monday and Tuesday?
Yep.
All right, so yeah, Roman's not going anywhere. And all the champions have to stay where they are because Greatest Royal Rumble isn't for another 2 weeks.
Well, you could swap the Intercontinental in the United States.
And I think the only way they want to do that is if they want to have Rollins on SmackDown as a major attraction. Mm-hmm. But I'm still going under the assumption that Bryan doesn't move and that Bryan will be the major attraction for SmackDown Live.
I'm kind of assuming that the way that things went down with WrestleMania and the Monday Night Rollins thing, Rollins is going nowhere and Finn Balor is moving instead.
I really hope so.
Well, I'm going along the assumption, like obviously now we're getting into the idea of who's trading who. I think at least one component of all of those United States and Intercontinental Championship matches will be moving to a different show. But I think it's going to be The Miz to SmackDown and Randy Orton's going to Raw.
Well, this
I
is
would be
something that
totally okay with that.
I kind of broke down. I did like a spreadsheet based off of different people and stuff, and it's hard to tell the way that WWE will go with certain things because it's hard to anticipate moves like heel turns or, you know, when they decide randomly to push. I mean, last year when Jinder Mahal went over to SmackDown, it seemed like it was like, all right, well, he's going to fill that like jobber mid-card role, and he became world champion. So you never know if a Mojo Rawley is somebody who's kind of a piece of shit on the mid-card section of SmackDown. If they move him over to Monday Night Raw because they really, really like him and they decide that they want him to be the guy who beats Seth Rollins, you can't anticipate that stuff. It's so hard to tell. And you got a guy like Jason Jordan. He is injured right now. What do you do with him when he comes back? He should stay on Monday Night Raw because his quote-unquote father is on Monday Night Raw. But who's to say they don't just drop that storyline because maybe they've sat on that a little bit and maybe they're looking at that and going, well, we really don't want to do that anymore. Let's have him go to SmackDown and hope people forget about it. Like, they could do weird things. They could repackage people. They could turn them heel or face. Or, I mean, even just on SmackDown, we had, or SmackDown and 205 Live, 205 Live by itself, Tony Nese turned babyface and Buddy Murphy turned heel, one after the other. That changes the whole dynamic of that because now we've got a top contender as a heel for Alexander, and we've got the dude who constantly talks about how much he's better than everybody else because he's got an 8-pack is a good guy. Like, it's so strange. And you factor in NXT people too, and it's like, you look at, like, say, SmackDown. SmackDown needs people really badly. But Monday Night Raw is an extra hour, and they always make that the A show. And every single draft that we have ever had, it's always been SmackDown needs people, and they never get them. So who's to say you don't get a Randy Orton and a Bobby Roode move over to Monday Night Raw in favor of people that don't matter all that much, like Big Cass and
Apollo.
Yeah, like Apollo, and split up like Titus Worldwide. Like, they could do that kind of stuff, and all we're going to do is go, what the hell are they thinking? Because SmackDown is the test ground. It's the way that they go, look, you have nothing going on for you, move over to SmackDown and we'll repackage you, or we'll try to give you something to do, or, you know, anything like that. They clearly value SmackDown as just the B show, and that's never going to change. You want to keep some kind of continuity and you want to keep some competitiveness and stuff, but they're probably going to gut SmackDown again. And it doesn't make any sense, but hey, it's something to take into account. I'm a little bit worried that Charlotte goes over to Raw.
Okay. I was thinking about this. What would be the worst? Would it really be that bad if all 4 horsewomen were on one brand? Like, let's say you move all the 4 horsewomen to Raw to set up that inevitable thing with Rousey. And then SmackDown can be this land of opportunity with all these fresh faces in the women's division that are really looking for a breakout opportunity.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's go to the women's division and focus 100% on the women right now. Because that's a smaller range. We can kind of figure that out a little bit easier. Right now on Monday Night Raw, we have the 2 heels in Absolution, the 2 heel team of Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. We've got Dana Brooke, who is like, she doesn't matter at all. Alicia Fox, who's injured. Sasha Banks and Bayley are like, they're feuding with each other, but they're both baby faces. One of them could turn heel at any time, that kind of a thing. Nia Jax is a baby face. She is the top of the division right now, and she's holding the title where she can't move. And Asuka is technically still on Raw, and Ronda Rousey is on there. There is no way, for instance, that they can have Charlotte move over from SmackDown and have Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha, Asuka, Ronda Rousey, and Nia Jax.
Yeah, it's too top heavy.
It's just there's too many people at the top of the babyface market for that. So you have to split up some people. And Nia can't move. Ronda Rousey's not going to move. So you have to move over. Even if it's just, for instance, if it's just Nia Jax, Ronda Rousey, Bayley, and Sasha Banks, and Ember Moon, that's already too many top babyfaces. You have to move one of them over to SmackDown.
Well, you have to assume that one of Sasha or Bayley is turning heel.
Oh, and Asuka, too.
Yeah, maybe Asuka as well, but...
Well, all right, so let me backtrack then. There's Asuka, there's Bayley, there's Ember Moon, Nia Jax, Ronda Rousey, and Sasha Banks. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 top baby faces. If one of them turns heel, that's 5 top baby faces, and the heels on the brand are Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, who just loses to everybody, Absolution, and whoever the Bayley or Sasha is.
Well, one of the trades that I see happening would even hurt that dynamic even more, because I think Alexa Bliss is moving back to SmackDown.
I hope so. I think she can do a lot more on SmackDown. I think she always seemed like the unlikely champion on Raw.
Well, this is strange because Carmella is now the champion, which opens up Charlotte. And if Charlotte were to move over to Raw, I would start to assume that maybe Charlotte turns heel. It's a little bit weird because now she's finally as a babyface, she works better, I think, right now. So,
well, I just don't see her moving when you have such a clear feud between her and Carmella now.
Right, that's another thing too. So I'm hoping Charlotte stays where she is.
Yeah.
And I also think Asuka needs to move to SmackDown. Asuka, Nia, and Ronda can't compete.
Nah, it's too much. But, I mean, I know people would be talking about whether it was right to break Asuka's streak or not, but they've kind of taken the monkey off their back there, really, in that she can lose matches now.
Right.
So she doesn't need to, if they don't want her to be the top star anymore, she doesn't have to be. She doesn't have a streak to defend. She can still be a big deal. But also there's the dynamic with Ember Moon as well. Do you have her on the same brand as Asuka as well and revisit that rivalry immediately? So I would say Asuka should be someone who should move to SmackDown.
I also think Asuka needs to turn heel.
Yeah, I think so. But...
Well, SmackDown's heel heavy right now, though.
That's the other thing is, if you look at Raw, Alexa Bliss, Alicia Fox, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Mickie James. Those are the heels. Dana Brooke is not even a factor, and she's more of a babyface than anything. And Alicia Fox, really, for that matter, she's not really a factor. And Absolution is Absolution. They can, whatever like that. But
they're
Alicia,
not a thing anymore, right?
Well, those two are probably still together.
Yeah,
they might not be. I don't know. But yeah, they'll probably be on par with the Iconic Duo. Which also, that's another thing. You've got the Iconic Duo, the Riot Squad, and Absolution. And technically you have the Four Horsewomen, but they're not really together. If you've got this idea of the tag team titles that have been rumored, you keep those people together, and you got the Bella Twins, and you got the Four Horsewomen, and you've got whatever, Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. You can play around with some things a little bit, but that could be a cross-branded type of show, which means that if it's a cross-branded show, then you get crossover between these two brands, and then that kind of sullies the whole thing. But I think you need to factor in the heel side of things. If it's Alexa Bliss as the top heel, she's already had her feud with Nia Jax. She's already had a feud with Bayley. She's already had a feud with Asuka, kind of. She's already had a feud with Sasha. Who else is there for Alexa to fight? She kind of needs to go over to SmackDown, but then even if she goes to SmackDown and you don't move anybody else, she had a feud with Becky. She had a feud with Naomi. And the only other babyface there is Charlotte. So Alexa versus Charlotte is one of the only things left to do. Unless you turn somebody else, and if you turn somebody else, then who do you turn? You know, you're not going to push, like, Sarah Logan, split up the Riot Squad.
Well, you
But
never know. Then don't say that. Jinder
You
Mahal,
could-
Tony.
You could make Ruby Riott a babyface quite easily with the alternative stuff, and a feud between her and Alexa Bliss does seem like, oh, Alexa Bliss is the very prim, proper, like, normal girl.
Hot one.
And, well, it's
Let's not mince words.
beholder.
She's the hot one, and Ruby Riott is not a
You in the
babyface.
eye of the beholder, Tony.
It's very subjective there, Tony.
Yeah,
I think that's an objective type thing.
But,
You'll see the Sexiest Superstars tournament.
I could see the shake up, break up the Riot Squad. They're probably the ones I think is the most vulnerable.
I think it should. That stable sucks.
Yeah, and they don't really need to be kept together right now. I think you could move someone like Liv Morgan or Sarah Logan over to like Raw, and they could just be there to make up the numbers. Really, not that they couldn't like eventually break out, but at the moment they would just be making up the numbers.
I think Sonya Deville moves to SmackDown, gets a huge singles push.
Sonya's. Oh wait, yeah. All right, never mind.
Mandy can probably stay on Raw because she's a little bit more. She might fill the Alexa Bliss gap as a singles competitor.
What do you guys think about this move? You take the two members of Absolution, you move them over to SmackDown, and you move two members of Riot Squad over to Raw, split up the Riot Squad, and those two aren't, you know, maybe it's Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan. You move them over to Raw, and they don't team up anymore. And you've got unfortunately, you've got the Iconic Duo and Absolution as two people teams on SmackDown at the same time, but
I don't think,
you know,
I don't think you can move Absolution to SmackDown now that Paige is the general manager.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I forgot about
Because
Paige.
it'll make it seem like, oh, you're going to just support us either way, which means either they have to turn against Paige, which they can't do in a physical way because she can't hurt Paige at this point.
Then we're in Daniel Bryan territory all over again.
Yeah, and you don't want to be that now.
What if that's the reasoning why they come over? What if she goes, look, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose are two people that I know really, really well, and I really want to have them on SmackDown. They're going to do super well, and Paige turns on them. And it becomes the kind of thing where it's like, you two have a lot of talent, and I really want you to succeed and whatever, but now that I'm in a general manager capacity, I'm not going to give you any kind of special treatment. And then they're like, what the hell, you're our friend. And then she's like, no, I'm not your friend, I'm your boss. Like that kind of a thing.
I'm hoping that with Paige as general manager, we no longer have to deal with general manager favoritism style storylines.
Yeah, I'm tired of like the general manager storylines. I just want to have the fact that Paige some people might be a bit against it, but I'm so happy that it seems like it's going to be a move that means that we don't have to deal with general managers and commissioners being at the forefront of the story all the time.
Hey, if you're asking me if I can pick between not seeing Paige and seeing Paige, I'm going to pick not seeing Paige for a while. So I'm fine with that. But that's the type of thing that it's hard to tell, because if WWE has a plan like that, it's almost impossible to know. Like, they might be like, wow, we really, really want to move Rusev to Monday Night Raw, so then Lana moves too, you know? Or I put this up in a Bleacher Report post. I said, well, the Usos and the New Day have been fighting each other way too often, and they need to be on separate shows.
Yeah.
And if the Usos move, Naomi should move, because Jimmy Uso and Naomi are married, and don't be a dick and force the married couples to have different traveling schedules, you know? So if Naomi moves over to Monday Night Raw, then we've got another top babyface. Asuka, Bayley, Naomi, Ember Moon, Nia Jax, Ronda Rousey, Sasha Banks. Absolutely 100% Asuka needs to move over. If not, also maybe one of Bayley and Sasha.
You could do one of Bayley or Sasha. There's like a big name that you want to present over there.
I could see Sasha being on SmackDown. I want the Four Horsewomen on the same brand, because I really think that will put everyone in a situation where the four horsewomen have these custom storylines, everything's, right in front of your face, and then you have a roster of women who have a fresh chance.
But why would you put your four of your biggest stars on one brand and not spread it out? It just makes it seem like, well, I know we obviously are of the opinion that Raw's the A show, but don't just rub it in everyone's faces. Why would anyone watch SmackDown if they're a fan of women's wrestling if nobody big is on SmackDown?
Well, I don't know. I think anyone who's watching SmackDown right now has to be a diehard as it is. I feel like the brand experiment is a failure in the sense of I know people that love AJ Styles, but they just flat out don't watch AJ Styles because they refuse to watch SmackDown. They watch Raw, and that's about all they can handle, and that's it.
But I think it's, well, first of all, it's too much anyway. Because if you're going to put all of those people that need to have their own storylines, need to have some focus on them. Because if you move all four horsewomen onto the same show, Becky Lynch becomes a non-entity essentially.
Unfortunately, Becky Lynch is already in that territory.
Potentially, but you want to make it so that it's 100% confirmed. And at this point, she still could be a presence on SmackDown. I mean, you could move her over to Raw. I think Natalya needs to move as much as anybody on SmackDown because she is completely stuck in whatever she's supposed to be doing. I mean, I'm also kind of judging some of these moves based on results of the previous Raw or SmackDown because WWE seems to have a tendency of you do the honors on the way out. So I'm looking at people that lost matches. So Natalya lost a match to Naomi on SmackDown, which makes me feel like she's moving to Raw. So she could give Naomi a good win on the way out, and then she moves over to Raw, and you can kind of forget about all that stuff that just happened on SmackDown.
I kind of look at that as being Naomi won the Battle Royal, and she won on SmackDown, and she's got a lot of momentum, so she goes to Raw.
I think she's going to go and be Carmella's first opponent at Backlash.
Naomi?
Yeah.
I was just assuming that would be Charlotte, because they don't have a match at the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Obviously.
Well, because Charlotte, I think at this point, is going to say, I can get my title back later. I have to make the Iconics pay.
Yeah, there's a lot of feuds for Charlotte on SmackDown at this point, so that's the main reason why I don't see her moving.
But I could see Sasha coming in to be her tag partner.
Well, but there's also Becky, though. Yeah, Charlotte and Becky are best friends. They're actually tighter than almost anybody.
With what they've done with Becky. After her little "you can't wear my color" fiasco in the Battle Royal, I don't take her seriously right now.
All right, so
we covered the women in quite detail there.
I'm thinking, just based off of that, Charlotte and Becky against the Iconics, Naomi against Carmella, unless for some reason... No, you know what? Unless it ends up being... What if this Carmella title reign is just temporary? What if Asuka moves over to SmackDown and they wanted to get this Carmella thing out of the way, and Asuka just challenges Carmella, and Asuka beats her at Backlash?
That would personally piss me off so much. That they're just happen. Hey, don't beat Charlotte. Here's Carmella. Go squash her.
No, I think that could kind of work, because you do this thing of Asuka moves to SmackDown, she beats Carmella for the title, and then she defends it against Charlotte at SummerSlam. And this time, and you do something where this time Asuka gets her win back, and then there's a rubber match later that on it, Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble, maybe even WrestleMania if they want to stretch it that long.
Yeah, I'm starting to lean that direction now. I think that's what's going to happen. Asuka and Naomi switch places. Asuka beats Carmella at Backlash for the title. You get Becky Lynch and Charlotte against the Iconics. And maybe you get some other switches along the way, too. Maybe, Natalya and Alicia Fox switch or something. They could do some stuff like that. But do you guys think anybody from NXT is going to be coming up for the women? I don't think so.
Not now,
I'm hoping that the few call-ups that we had this week aren't the only call-ups we're going to get. I want to see Sanity move.
Well, I'm talking about just the women.
Oh, well, with Sanity, you get Nikki Cross.
That's the only one I can see.
And I wouldn't mind seeing a Dakota Kai bypass NXT in the same vein of Sarah Logan or Liv Morgan.
I think the rosters are pretty stacked as it is at the moment. Like, I think if you do call up any more like individual ones, like the Iconics are big deals, and they were a big deal in NXT, and they've been around for a while, so they can translate quite quickly, as could Ember Moon as like a former champion. But if you do just stick someone like a Dakota Kai or even a Kairi Sane at this point, they're just not credible enough that they'll just get completely lost in the shuffle.
Nikki Cross is the only one.
Yeah, and she'd have to do that as part of the group.
And it has to be SmackDown, because unless the Authors of Pain move over to SmackDown, but if that was the case, they would have just made their debut on SmackDown probably.
Yeah.
But I think you need to keep Sanity and the Authors of Pain separate. So if Sanity moves over to SmackDown,
what would you see their first feud being, though, for Sanity?
Well, here's the thing. Are Sanity babyfaces or heels?
Heels.
They go back and forth all the time. And the way that they've been booking them, like, it's weird. It's like they've booked them as Nikki Cross is a babyface, Killian Dane is a tweener, Eric Young and Alexander Wolf are whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the group is a heel. It's weird. And I think that what makes the most sense to me at the very least is Sanity comes in as heels against the New Day.
That makes sense. You do a free guys on free guys that works.
I was actually thinking, if you want to get this, like, Hound mentality over, you have them attack a major single star like a Daniel Bryan.
You shouldn't be wasting Daniel Bryan on like building up the new faces.
Well, it's clear to me that they have established that Bryan is just going to be like anybody else in the card again.
I think like chucking him in the ring with the WWE champion is slightly different than putting him against the next line of call-ups from NXT.
Well, I mean that he's going to be a full-time competitor.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he might start out as a part-time, but no, they put him right into the line of fire.
Yeah, well, I think that's fine that he's like that, but like I say, like he's at a certain level, whereas Sanity should be taken on. Well, there's obviously the typical guy that you set your NXT people on, which is Dolph Ziggler. So, but I assume that would be what Almas's first feud would be if he was to move to SmackDown.
Oh, let's pivot over to
Ziggler a babyface or a heel?
Ziggler's mostly a heel.
A waste of time.
If we look at SmackDown right now, we've got the top talent on SmackDown. You've got AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, and this is like you start merging like mid-card, upper mid-card, that type of thing. Bobby Roode, Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. It's weird. I'm assuming you bring somebody like an Almas in. I mean, SmackDown needs him. Raw doesn't. And I'm also kind of assuming Drew McIntyre goes to SmackDown. But I don't think we're getting any other people from NXT going to SmackDown. I think Almas and McIntyre are the two only ones. And Sanity, of course.
I think McIntyre's staying in NXT. Because I think they're going to have I think they'll make the next event McIntyre versus Black for the title. Just because he's never got his rematch for it.
Yeah, but he was so adamant about, I'm going to get Almas. So unless he debuts comes back at the tapings tonight and has the immediate match with Almas,
I think that's what they'll do. I think that's what they'll do, because that could be the number one contenders match. Like, you have Almas. Almas has stayed in NXT for the time being, so he can do these tapings, and then once these tapings are done and he's lost, I assume, to Drew McIntyre, then he can come up in the shake-up.
Do you see any other hotshot call-ups, like Street Profits or TM61?
That's another thing, too, is sometimes they just go on a whim. And
Yeah.
I kind of assumed that No Way Jose was going to be coming up for a while, but we've had instances in the past where people have been... I mean, look at Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose was never on NXT. She might have done like 2 episodes or something like that, and it seemed like it was like you're going straight from the live events to Monday Night Raw. We could get like Jeet Rama and Raftar just being like, oh, there you go, they're a part of Raw or something, where like the Ely brothers can pop up and you're just kind of like, wait, what the fuck? Like, you never know. I think Leo Rush is going to come up, and I think he's going to go to 205 Live, but I don't think that that's going to be a part of this Superstar shakeup.
The only like potential hotshot I could see from NXT would be Lars Sullivan.
And I think that Killian Dane moving up with Sanity opens up room for Sullivan on NXT.
Yeah. And
like Cesar Bononi, like I think he's staying. They put a little bit more effort into like EC3 and Ricochet and stuff. I think that they're staying too.
I think the fact they called up like 3 NXT people they called up the Authors of Pain, Ember Moon, No Way Jose, and they've called up the Iconics. I think SmackDown need maybe a couple more like the Sanity and an Almas. But I think beyond that point, it just gets too much. I mean, I know the rosters could always use more talent, but they're pretty stacked as it is. Like, as soon as you start calling out more people, then someone's going to be essentially losing their jobs.
Yeah, because what do you do with, like, Sin Cara? Yeah. What do you do with Ty Dillinger? Because they don't push him.
And they don't even
you still need to bring back Mike Kanellis, you know?
Yeah, they don't even get on shows as it is, like, the people that are currently on the roster. So you bring in more people, which just means that them and a couple of other people aren't going to be getting on shows as well. So you can't just take, like, half of NXT's roster and put them onto either show.
Random ideas here. Monday Night Raw has too many people on, like, it's too top heavy. Mm-hmm. Bobby Lashley just came in. They clearly are going to push him. He's either going to be top of the line mid-card, upper mid-card, main event. Braun Strowman is not going to win that world title if they give this to Roman Reigns. How long is Brock Lesnar staying around? What happens when Dean Ambrose comes back? Where's the upward momentum for Elias? What do you do with Finn Balor? Is there a reason for Jason Jordan to stick around other than being Angle's son? Jeff Hardy's no longer with Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt are a tag team. The Miz needs something to do. Samoa Joe is hanging around with Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins is the champion. And Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are still an idea out there. Here's my thought. Big Cass goes to SmackDown. For sure. I think that maybe opens up room for Baron Corbin to go to Monday Night Raw.
I think that's a move that's going to happen.
I think Finn Balor and the Balor Club go to SmackDown. Maybe they don't move a lot of these other people, and losing Finn Balor helps balance that out quite a bit. But if they don't lose Finn Balor and the Balor Club, I think we're losing Titus Worldwide and either Jeff Hardy or Dean Ambrose.
It's interesting that you said those two last, because I had a few ideas in my head, and for a really heavy move for SmackDown that could easily be a world champion, I was thinking exactly those two, Jeff Hardy or Dean Ambrose. I also think the Revival needs to go to SmackDown because they've been wasted on Raw, and I think a fresh move would be good for them. Balor and Balor Club, I've been saying for a while, need to get to SmackDown, and that will open up some doors for them. I think that if they're going to move any big name in terms of size, maybe Braun Strowman goes to SmackDown.
You know what? At this point, I'd love to see it. Maybe make like, I don't know if I really would want to sacrifice it, but like, if you need to make room for him, maybe you move Orton over to Raw to make room for him. But I would love to see Braun Strowman actually be able to win a world title. He's not going to do it with Roman Reigns. And see, that's tough too, though. See, because it's like, we don't know what they're planning. If Roman Reigns, for instance, and Brock Lesnar, maybe Brock Lesnar didn't sign on to a deal for more than past the greatest Royal Rumble. If that's the case, Brock Lesnar drops the title to Roman Reigns. And clearly they've set up Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns. In my mind, I would love to see Samoa Joe be the one that beats Roman Reigns for the title, but he's not going to just beat him for it outright. This too quick. And then I would love to see Braun Strowman beat Samoa Joe for it, but I'm fantasy booking what I want more so than what I think WWE is going to do. And if you get Bobby Lashley in the mix, I think Bobby Lashley is going to be the one that beats Roman Reigns. And maybe Braun Strowman beats Bobby Lashley. You know, it's a weird sort of scenario, but if Braun goes to SmackDown, he's got a better chance of winning that world title, I think.
But you go along the lines of Braun Strowman is, like, in legitimate terms, not just the way WWE see it, but the way the fans see it, he's the biggest babyface on Raw.
Yeah.
And you've got Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. You can't really have the two biggest babyfaces, arguably in the whole WWE, on the same show. It just
That's true.
It becomes like, because there's going to be like things saying, oh, both of these guys should be the world champion, but they both can't be the world champion because they're both on the same show. So
unless, what if you give the United States Championship to Daniel Bryan? Because if you do that and he goes down with an injury, you don't risk as much.
I love that people still think Daniel Bryan's going to get injured again. Daniel
Last
Bryan,
half empty there, Tony?
it's just all on the lines of like, all the reports say he's healthier than pretty much everybody else on the roster, but people are just so worried that he's the one that's going to get injured again.
Yeah, but look what happened before. You gave him the world title, and within a month or so, he went down with an injury. You spent about a year building him back up. You gave him the Intercontinental title, and he went down with an injury.
Well, don't put him in the ring against Sheamus.
Or Kane.
Yeah, avoid those two, and then you're fine.
It's something you have to. I mean, of course, somebody like a Bobby Roode can go down with an injury. Like, you never really know, but with Daniel Bryan having a precedent for that, I think it's something that you don't necessarily want to give him a world title quite yet.
I kind of see Braun Strowman staying on Raw because they've always, even though there's no real clear definite like distinction between Raw and SmackDown in terms of the way the rosters are laid out, Raw is tended towards more being the heavyweight championship is for heavyweights. The Universal Championship is for the big guys, the Braun Strowman, your Bobby Lashley, your Brock Lesnar, and Roman Reigns.
Kevin Owens.
And if you move one of those onto SmackDown, then it's kind of like, well, clearly they've got to be the world champion basically the entire time because they're so much bigger than everyone else. You can't, even though you could have fun matches between AJ Styles or Daniel Bryan with Braun Strowman, you can't realistically beat him that often. Or you can't have those holding championships for like 6 to 8 months when Braun Strowman's on the roster.
Well, I'm kind of fantasy booking like Tony what I would want. I think Strowman would be a hell of a heel for guys like AJ and Daniel. You know, like, these are these smaller guys, and Braun Strowman can come in and say, you know, I'm going to run through this entire brand and get my hands on the world title.
But he's too popular to be a heel.
If he
It's like because the way they booked him on Raw was to make him a heel, and it made him a bigger babyface.
But if he attacked Daniel Bryan, he's a heel.
Let's put it this way. Let's go through. This is why I said this is going to go off the rails. Let's go through Raw and determine who's a mid-carder and who's a main eventer and who's in the mix. Big Cass, mid-carder, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much his ceiling at this point.
If I'm working under the assumption, I think Elias mid-carder.
Yeah, potential win the Continental Champion, but no more than that, really.
I think Jason Jordan mid-carder.
Yep.
If that at this point, yeah, but that's again a ceiling.
I go No Way Jose mid-carder, obviously.
Opening act, yeah.
Yep.
Soon to be jobber.
I put into where you start getting, like, let's range towards upper mid-carder type of thing. You got Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finn Balor.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you kind of constitute Big Show like that, but I mean, Big Show he's kind of a non-entity. Like, you can move Big Show over to SmackDown, it doesn't matter. He doesn't really pop up, so I'm not even like counting him in the mix. The Miz is part of that upper mid-card type of spot. You got two jobber people like Goldust and R-Truth. They don't really factor all that much. And then you've got Dean Ambrose. Your main eventers, you've got Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe. And then you can pick and choose from the upper mid-card type of thing. If you get rid of Brock Lesnar and assume that he maybe doesn't stick around, that's certainly a possibility. Finn Balor, Jeff Hardy, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, sort of, Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley. These guys are all baby faces. Somebody's got to turn. Dean Ambrose? Finn Balor?
Dean Ambrose makes the most sense, really.
I think Ambrose is going to be a heel. It's a matter of getting him to come back and setting up that story for him to turn.
I think he's done all he can as a babyface right now.
And if you look at SmackDown, though, you've got like the people that we were going down before, where it was like the whole Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Randy Orton, Baron Corbin, blah blah blah. There's still some potential to do a couple feuds, but we've seen a lot of those feuds already, so they sort of have to switch some people around. And if you switch over like a Baron Corbin, the person I would think that would make the most sense to split up would be Dean Ambrose. And maybe if you turn Finn Balor heel, and you get that Finn Balor versus AJ Styles, Finn Balor versus Daniel Bryan. It all depends on who's going to turn, I think. Whoever in the mid-card of Raw turns heel changes everything for this, I think. Also, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. What the fuck are we doing with those two?
So
they can't realistically stay on SmackDown, right? And if they go over to Raw, then Raw is so overstacked. And we need Finn Balor and Dean Ambrose and The Miz to go over to SmackDown.
So with Owens and Zayn, I kind of see Owens going to Raw and then maybe possibly having Zayn without a job bring in the El Generico character, like, hey, I'm not Sami Zayn, I'm just a luchador. I'll go to 205 Live. I'll be in the Lucha House Party. I'm just a luchador. I need a job, like.
I think their storyline is more long-term than I think most of us will give it credit for. I could see them not being on Raw and SmackDown for a good 2 or 3 months. And that could be something along the lines of they try and do like invasions from the crowd, or maybe they start wrestling for companies that WWE is affiliated with, but isn't exactly
like Evolve.
Yeah, like an Evolve or a ICW or something along those lines. Or you move them back to NXT for a little while, just to give NXT like a little bit of buzz for a little while before they come up to either Raw or SmackDown again once the dust has settled on their previous instances. But either way, when you do move them up to the main roster, they do like take up a big amount of impetus, unless you decide to move them into the tag team division, which I think Raw's tag team division is crying out for a bit of star power.
Oh, they need to switch some tag team stuff around too, because if the New Day and the Usos stay on the same brand, that's too much.
I think that was part of the way of like them having their match on SmackDown was a way of like saying like, this match. Yeah, this will be the final match for a while. So I think based on that, it seems like the New Day would be the team to move to Raw.
Yeah, I agree.
But
like I see Naomi being a major babyface for the SmackDown Women's Division, and I see the Usos sticking around because even though I think they're good when they're paired with Roman, I just see them being wasted on Raw.
I don't know. See, I lean a little bit more towards the Usos moving, and maybe, again, this is another thing where it's like they just paired up Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, and if they pair those two up, they most likely are going to fight the Bar at the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
I would assume they win the titles instead of the Bar. Because the Bar just had them. Like, what's the point? Kind of.
Yeah.
And you can throw out Slater and Rhino. They don't matter. The Miz-Taraj is going to go wherever the Miz is, and they kind of don't matter. The Authors of Pain are sticking on Raw. They need to win those titles, and if they are going to win those titles, I think that they're going to be the ones that beat Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. do you separate Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy is a major star. Matt's great. The whole broken, woken thing is great. Jeff Hardy is a major star. Put him on SmackDown.
You put him on SmackDown, you separate those, you have the eventual split between Bray and Matt, then you become two mid-carders, two upper mid-carders. That's something to take into account. I think it's time for Titus Worldwide to leave and to go to SmackDown, and maybe they get switched out by like Breezango, or maybe they get switched out by the Ascension. It's weird.
I really wish, and they're past the point with all four, either the two members of Breezango as singles and the Ascension as a team, they're past the point of no return. But I wish that they could do something to gain these people their credibility back.
Well, at the end of the day, like, you can't push everyone at the same time.
Yeah, but you've pushed the Ascension. They can never be taken as seriously as they were in NXT again.
No, they can't. Yeah, they can't.
How about this? Just pitch something for a balancing act. Bludgeon Brothers and Authors of Pain need to be on separate shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clearly. Sanity needs to be on a separate show from Authors of Pain. So we're already working with Bludgeon Brothers and Sanity on the same show. And maybe Sanity are baby faces. Maybe they fight the Bludgeon Brothers, down the line. Like, that's something to account for. But New Day and Usos need to split. So one of them needs to go over to Raw. If we do what we were talking about earlier with the potential of Asuka moving over to SmackDown, you balance her out with Naomi and the Usos going over to Raw. The Usos now take up too much space on Raw, and you need to move some kind of a babyface team over to SmackDown to kind of take up a little bit of spot for that, because you've got Titus Worldwide, the Balor Club, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, and the Usos.
Wow,
that's
Raw
a little bit too much to focus
teams.
on.
And Heath Slater and Rhino.
But they don't really count. Like, you can move Slater and Rhino and then the Ascension, and nobody's going to care. But to make room for the Usos, you move the Balor Club. And with the Balor Club being with Balor, because they are the Balor Club, that moves Finn Balor over to SmackDown to help with the whole overloaded Monday Night Raw type of thing. I think that could be the case. And maybe you move Titus Worldwide over to SmackDown, and maybe you put, like, say, I don't know, maybe Rusev Day, but I would think more like a Breezango or something, or the Ascension to balance out them, or maybe it's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on Raw. Like, I could see a scenario very easily that our top babyface teams on Monday Night Raw are the Usos, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, and maybe some kind of a team like... See, I don't know, that's tough. God damn it. This is so tough.
After hearing you lay out the Raw Tag Division like that, I really think they might need to hotshot a TM61 or something to really get the Raw Tag Team Division going again, because at some point, remember, the bar is just two single stars smushed together. At some point, they could easily separate Sheamus and Cesaro if they want. Added singles power.
If you want to move TM61 up, you might as well just pick two random people in the crowd every single night. They have the same effect in terms of star power on the division.
No, I'm talking about they're going to need a tag team structure. I'm not talking about star power, because star power kind of got them in this position where the Raw tag scene was Seth and Dean versus the Bar, and that was great in terms of star power, but it really hurt the rest of the division in terms of established teams.
I think it's fine to just have two top babyface teams on there. You don't want to have too many, because at the end of the day, if all of your tag team feuds pretty much are just based around the championship, you don't really want to have too many teams in there in the first place. Because we know how WWE struggles to build tag team feuds that aren't about the championship. So
I can't believe NXT is under the same umbrella sometimes.
Smaller stuff to deal with, I guess.
yeah, they have a smaller roster, and they have like only an hour to work with, so not everyone can get a spotlight, but they only spotlight the ones that matter anyway. So
keep in mind, though, I mean, tonight, if these NXT tapings switch any of this around, I mean, these tapings are going to be taking place while this is editing for those that are interested, and we could be, you know, so far behind as far as, like, they could debut, like, all right, we've got, like, the Ely Brothers and the Forgotten Sons.
And War Machine with Paul Ellering.
Maybe that's a thing, and, like, there's lots of things that could happen here, but, all right, you know what? We've talked about this for a long time. How about this? What is the one move that, if it happens, assuming, of course, they don't balance it out with a million other things, but the one move that you would be like, oh, fuck.
Like, negatively?
Yeah.
I would say if you move either AJ Styles or Daniel Bryan to Raw.
Yeah, I was going to say Daniel Bryan goes to Raw.
Those are the two that I was going with. AJ or Daniel Bryan to Monday Night Raw.
Daniel Bryan goes to Raw would be my oh fuck.
Because that's
I'll throw, just for something different, I'll throw out the idea that if they move Shinsuke Nakamura over to Raw.
Which I thought could be a thing, because when he turned on AJ at Mania, I thought, all right, so he goes to Raw in the Superstar Shakeup and fuse with Roman Reigns. This is while the entrances for the Universal title match are happening, and I'm expecting Roman Reigns to win. I'm thinking Shinsuke versus Roman after a one-off with AJ at Backlash. But
on the flip side of things, what would be the one thing that would move where you would go, holy shit, this is going to be amazing?
R-Truth to SmackDown.
I mean, besides the obvious.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try and dig something else there.
I gotta say, just the Roman Reigns to SmackDown. We're just going, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, in terms of shock value and, like, yes, I would say Roman Reigns to SmackDown as well.
A shock value one. Trying to think. I think if you were to Roman Reigns makes the most sense, really. Or if you want to kickstart something else, move Ronda Rousey to SmackDown. Just a case like she's beating up the commissioner of Raw. So maybe it's like she does that and then they move her star power. Well, just the case
she goes on a tour.
Just the case like she's still obviously got a huge amount of beef with Stephanie McMahon. So if you want to move her to SmackDown, then obviously that dissipates and you can just concentrate on building her up as a wrestler.
That's too logical, Callum.
Yeah, I know. And also, I think it'll probably hurt Rousey because Stephanie's getting her over better than anybody else on SmackDown probably could. So,
in terms of moves that I expect that would really make me happy, either Finn Balor or Jeff Hardy to SmackDown to be in the main event picture.
I think both of them will probably go. And I'm thinking those two and The Miz are all moving to SmackDown.
Oh, yes. Miz and Bryan on the same brand will make me a very happy person.
If you want to make me happy, move Finn Balor and the Balor Club over to SmackDown. Move the Usos over to Raw, I think. Move Baron Corbin over to Raw.
Yes.
Balance Baron Corbin out with either Jeff Hardy or Dean Ambrose. And I think that you're starting to open up some good possibilities. Because I don't want to see Baron Corbin versus Daniel Bryan. No. But I do want to see maybe Jeff Hardy versus Daniel Bryan. Or Dean Ambrose versus Daniel Bryan. Or Finn Balor versus Daniel Bryan. Or for that matter, any of those three against... Well, except for Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles. But we could get Dean Ambrose versus Randy Orton. We could get Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns. Like,
I want to see that match.
Baron Corbin versus Braun Strowman could be potentially interesting.
Well, what do you think the ceiling is for Corbin? Do you see him as world champion?
No.
Mid-card, yeah.
Especially not on Raw. But no, he's lower on the scale than Samoa Joe is.
And if you want to make me really happy in this draft, You're released off Dolph Ziggler.
Listen.
That's about it. But it's along the lines of just to kind of like head towards the conclusion of this. How many trades do you think are actually going to happen between Raw and SmackDown?
Saying five each, and at least one extra call up from NXT.
Yeah, I can see about that.
I think it's going to be close to 8. If you count the men and the women, I think it's going to be about 8-ish.
I think that what's going to happen, and we'll talk about this next week because we're going to push back the hot tags again next week and do them on Wednesday.
Are we?
But because it's so much easier to just do the Superstar Shakeup review type stuff after both Raw and SmackDown.
Also,
I think after
I was gonna say we follow Tony's schedule, so we can't really do too much.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to do like after Raw. We won't have any context to who pops up on SmackDown. So if we start talking about like, oh my god, this is horrible because we have so many people on Raw, they're gonna balance it out at least a little bit on SmackDown. And we'll talk about our review stuff when we do that. And also remind blah blah blah. Let's get that word out there. Reminder for everybody to remember. That's what I was trying to say. That even though we do have our main event for this week coming up that we're going to actually be recording right after this, but that's the tournament talk. Next week, the main event is actually not going to be Superstar Shakeup stuff. It's going to be the mailbag because we have no room after next week to be able to do the mailbag because there's the greatest Royal Rumble predictions and post-show, and then there's immediately the beginning of the month for May is Backlash predictions and post-show. So start thinking about your mailbag questions, everybody, and actually stay tuned for later on today or whatever it gets posted for the tournament talk. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications to be aware of when those things are posted throughout the night around like when NXT is around and stuff like that. Follow these two guys all over the place as well, too. We've got Callum over at Wigmeister14 on Twitter.
Yay, that's me.
Anything else you want to toss out?
No, you pretty much covered it. I don't need to talk now.
And we got Dude Felice on Twitter for Robert.
That's right.
And PandemoniumMania.com for him as well.
Thank you.
And for me, the only other thing is Fanboys Anonymous, which I've been neglecting a little bit, but pretty soon we're going to be getting into Infinity War. So, fuck yeah. And if I get a chance to see Rampage this weekend, maybe I'll take a break and see that and talk about fucking flying wolves and shit. I don't know.
That's still wrestling, Tony. You still got to cover The Rock.
Yeah, it is kind of. God damn it. I can't fucking escape. But I am going to escape the hot tags.
One thing you got to plug, Tony, because you're modest, so I'll do it for you. Pick up on Smark Out Moments official TeePublic the Nicholas Club Worldwide t-shirt.
Yeah. Before it gets taken down, because I just had all of my Sonic the Hedgehog designs taken down on Fanboys.
No!
Every single one of the Sega ones. They were just like, fuck you. It doesn't matter what it is. So, you can't buy, like, Stuck in the Friend Zone anymore. And whatever. Actually, you probably can on Redbubble, because I don't think they took that down. But yeah, buy the Nicholas Club shirt while you can, because they also took down my Eat, Sleep, Repeat again. They really do not like that t-shirt being up on there. I've had it up for a while. I keep reposting it every once in a while, and they keep going, no, you can't fucking do that one. Yeah, it is what it is. But check out that stuff, everybody. We will see you when we see you. This has been another Smark Out moment. We're being counted out.